Hi guys, this is Eve West. Thank you for tuning into my YouTube channel. This channel is dedicated to promoting a book I wrote. It's called Follow. It's an ebook. You can find it on Amazon.com under the Kindles tab. And my book deals with a holistic view of spirituality, looking at it not just from a purely psychological standpoint, such as love, creativity, intuition, and so forth, but I also focus on the earthly aspect of a human being. And so when you think of us, you should think of a human being as a demigod. And so we're also earthly, and we're taught to deny that aspect of ourselves. But this actually corresponds to the reptilian brain, which you can see, taste, touch, smell, and hear. So I focus on very controversial topics that we're shunned for talking about, from talking about in the Matrix, such as race, money, sex, and so forth. And so I talk about the various constructs of the Matrix and how they actually work to disintegrate the mind into the conscious ego and the unconscious astral body or unconscious mind. It's referred to as the astral body in New Age literature and esoteric doctrines and so forth. I talk about the elite. I talk about the elite that actually govern this existence. I talk about, a lot of my personal life and how, my holistic view of spirituality, it oscillates between the microcosm of my personal life and the macrocosm of the world at large. And so lately I've been talking a lot about gang stalking, because whenever you start to acquire knowledge, especially at a rapid pace, you start to vibrate differently within the matrix. You start to vibrate differently. And what does that mean? The information that you find out really dissipates glamour. So all the religions and your program you got in education and media entertainment, you really start to see through the construct and how it's subliminally programming you to really to be a robot, basically, to make choices that you're not consciously doing. And so as you become conscious, you become what they call Lucifer or Lucy. Going back to the movie Lucy, Lucy was a bear of knowledge, a bear of light. And so Lucifer is definitely demonized within the Matrix, because Lucifer represents knowledge, and the Matrix can only be upheld by glamour. It can only be upheld by illusion and so forth. And so when you find out little information, that sees past our religions, for example, then you're demonized. You're demonized and you're considered to be a divergent. And so people who are programmed within the Matrix point you out as a divergent, and you are crucified. You are crucified. And so you're, most times, instead of grounding your kundalini and manifesting, you are pushed out of your body with psychological torture. And you go on to the heavenly realm where you work out your restrictions that you had as a physical ego. But the whole purpose is to ground your desires into physicality so you can escape the matrix system and escape reincarnation, and you don't have to come back here. But the programming is designed to take you away from your body and make you super spiritual, which is unholy. Christ is holy. Christ is not just spiritual or psychological, but Christ is also earthly. Until you can actually embrace both of them, you will continue to be a slave, going back and forth between the sun and the moon, between knowledge or awareness and the devil or the unconscious aspect of yourself, where you're just kind of working out the things that you wanted to do when you were a slave in physicality. So really I want to put light on on my gang stalking, especially within my dwelling. My gang stalking within my dwelling has definitely been amped up full force, if you will. And so I definitely see a breakthrough as it pertains to my consciousness, one way or the other, whether it be reincarnating or being able to ground my sacral into the physical ego so I can escape the reincarnation system, because there's been a lot of ganging. Hate is in danger, a whole lot of ganging. And so really it's been a good thing, because the people who are designed and programmed to to disintegrate me and to reincarnate me, if you will, and to sell my soul, basically, those people are starting to shapeshift out. They're starting to shapeshift out and show their true colors. And so this is a good thing, because the whole purpose of the sun, the whole purpose of your consciousness and your awareness, is to put light, to shed light on the real agenda, which is to take away your light. And so, lately there's been an issue when it comes to food. There's been an issue in my dwelling when it comes to food. Like I said, in many of my other videos, I did not have to be back here in Charleston with my parents. But I was coerced to come back here. So the agenda, the gang stalking agenda, was to take away my livelihood. I have been pushed and sent away from like 3 jobs. And I shared with you in one of my videos evidence to support that I was gang stalked at one of my jobs. And So, you know, I had gotten another job, and I was like, well, you know, I'm not going to take it because my mom and I had been getting, you know, we had a better, or I thought at the time, we had a better relationship, and I felt like I could kind of segue out of teaching, start my own business, and especially since I was vibrating differently, you know, and so it was very difficult to fit in. And so I thought, you know, not just from a heart standpoint, because I really love what I do. You know, although I don't make any money off of it, I really love what I do, and so at the superficial level, I really love helping people, you know, but at the same time, you know, I felt that this would be a good move for me because it would give me some flexibility and autonomy in terms of my career and what I want to do. You know, when you pick a career, it shouldn't be something just based upon monetary gain. You know, it should be something based upon what you want, your lifestyle too. And so I didn't really have a lot of autonomy when it comes to teaching. You know, every district is different, but within this particular, the settings I'd worked in, you know, I didn't have a whole bunch of autonomy in terms of what I wanted to do. You know, one of the schools I had, you know, I did have some autonomy in terms of my curriculum, but other facets of the job I did not. And so, you know, as a result, you know, I said I was going to segue out of teaching, so I came down here to Charleston. But as I came down here, there was tons of restrictions that were imposed upon me. So there was an agenda set to have my head, basically. and really, it had not come to my awareness until, you know, I don't know, maybe a couple of years ago. It had not come to my awareness that that was the agenda. And so, you know, really things have become very petty, such as, you know, food and so forth. If I had known that I would have all these various restrictions when it comes to food, or when I dry my clothes, or when I cook my food, or when I take a shower, you know, I definitely would have made a conscious choice to not, you know, relocate. And, you know, whenever you're in your parents' house, we all have lived with our parents before, and so you can't do what you want to do. And I always knew coming back here that, you know, I would not be able to stay out till 4 in the morning, or bring somebody back to the house or something like that. Not that I ever really did that anyway, but, you know, I knew that, you know, the things that you do within your own home is different when it comes to doing things within your parents' home. So, of course, I knew that I would have to give up certain liberties, if you will, because you're in someone else's home. But the types of restrictions that I've been subjected to are inhumane, and they're very evil. They're very evil. And it's very sick, and it's very sad. When you look at some of the gang stalking videos, these are things I would never tell my own daughter. You know, this is the rule here. To me, it's like really, the psychological torture is so severe at this point, and the restrictions, it's like a concentration camp. I kid you not. It's like psychological warfare. You know, I have to concentrate all the time to make sure that I'm on point, because, you know, I'm not even really identifying with my body so much, because I've been psychologically mind-effed pretty much every day. And so you're going to see this in a lot of videos. And so in this particular video, I wanted to address food, because one thing about gang stalking, and it comes to facilitating an environment to destroy or crucify a Christ, you know, there's always, and this goes back to symbology in the Bible. You know, Jesus talks to his disciples in the Bible, you know, and so, you know, when you look at Bible stories, it talks about how, you know, the disciples will be persecuted. The disciples will be persecuted, and they'll try to throw you in jail and stuff like that. You'll be persecuted by your family and your friends, and yada, 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 this and the other. And so this kind of goes back to that type of symbology. But there's always an agenda to incarcerate the Christ. The Christ is actually, you know, the agenda is set to make it out like the Christ is crazy, like there's heresy or what have you. Like I said, I've been burned as a witch, you know, lifetime after lifetime. And so, you know, the agenda is to make it out like I'm crazy. And the agenda is to actually exacerbate my emotional body, which is connected to my pineal gland, which is connected to the planet of consciousness, which is Saturn. So I can actually blow up and somehow become incarcerated. And so when you listen to a lot of the videos and things like that, and the interactions that I have with my mom, she intentionally does things and uses psychological tactics to actually tick me off and piss me off. So, you know, since I have, you know, more melanin, a little bit of melanin left, in my next one I won't have, you know, the melanin capacity to see past the BS that's being put to my consciousness. But since I have a little bit of melanin left, I'm able to really kind of sidestep her tactics, if you will. And you know, so with food, it's become an issue. You know, since, you know, my business hasn't gotten off the ground like I wanted it to, and I'm not currently employed, they feel, my parents, you know, my mother mainly, you know, my dad, you know, he upholds her programming, but, you know, my mother mainly, she feels she is in position to, I would say, you know, to target me when it comes to food. And today it's funny because she did offer me a fillet of fish today. So, you know, I would say that that's progress, if you will. But the only reason why she's doing that is because lately I have exposed her in terms of what the real agenda is. And so, you know, she's just coming around to try to pretend that, you know, she's really for me and what have you. But she's really not. She's really not for me, and she's really about taking my head, basically. And so I even told her today, I was like, oh, you know, Mom, how much did Rome pay you for my head? You know, pretty much. You know, how much did they pay you, you know, in order to turn me over to the government, so to speak? And, you know, she really doesn't want to talk about it. Every time I mention something like that, every time I mention something about the Bible, she's very much quiet. Or she's like, I don't want to hear it, leave me alone, whatever the case is. But in conversation, within the same conversation, if it's something to do with my mental health, or, you know, if it's something to do with monetary issues like food or something like that, she's all about talking about it. So really, she gives herself away so much. And I love, you know, I wouldn't say I love, but, you know, I do feel good about, you know, really shedding light on, putting light in the situation so she could shed her, you know, she can show her true colors. And so in this video, I'm going to showcase my mom actually telling me to ask for food, because the thing is that on one particular, this happened a long time ago, actually, a while ago, my mother, well, actually it was my mother. The story was my dad I had some chicken in the refrigerator, my dad threw it away, and so by accident. And so I was like, oh, okay, you know, no big deal. But I thought that my parents had cooked my chicken. Because the same amount of chicken that I had in the refrigerator, the chicken legs, the same amount of chicken is the same amount of chicken that I saw in a Pyrex dish that they had cooked. So I said, no big deal, I'll just go ahead and get some of their chicken. Well, my mother became up in arms about this, and she was like, you know, how dare you, you know, go in there and take my things without asking. And so I said, oh, well, you know, I saw that you had cooked the chicken, so, you know, really, I was like, well, you know, it's not a big deal since you cooked the chicken. I'm not going to argue with you about that, although I prefer the legs, because I prefer dark meat. I don't like white meat as much, you know, in terms of, you know, I don't know, I just don't, you know, I don't particularly care for it. So I was like, okay, well, you know, I'll go ahead and I'll eat the, you know, the wings or what have you, because my mom, and my dad cooked the legs. Well, in doing this, you know, she was like, well, you should have asked me, and so forth. And, you know, I told her, well, you know, I'm going to ask you. And I'm going to ask you now because, you know, my dad was like, well, you know, I'll buy your food back. He did buy my food back the next day, but I said, you know, that night I was hungry, and I didn't really care for bacon and eggs because, you know, I mean, they, you know, as far as bacon and eggs is concerned, I really didn't want bacon and eggs. You know, that's just not something I really preferred. And since I wanted chicken, and that's what my heart was set on, I said, well, you know, I'll just go ahead and eat the chicken. So he was like, no, don't eat her chicken because I don't want any type of trouble in the home. And this is key here, because although my dad is not the main culprit, if you will, in terms of the issues that are going on, the gang stalking that's going on within the home, he upholds the programming. So whatever she does, he condones it. He condones whatever she does. And so this is very insidious as well. You know, if you see your daughter being mistreated, then it seems like you would step in to say, hey, you know, I'm going to go ahead and step in and take care of this. But he does not. He does not do that. He upholds what she does. And so, you know, he tries to fix it on the back end, but he upholds it within that moment. And so, you know, I went to bed without eating anything that I wanted because, you know, well, actually not eating anything at all, I believe. No, I don't think I ate anything at all. I don't recall exactly, but I don't believe that I went to bed, you know, without eating because they had thrown away my food that I bought. And they did not want to replace it with food that they have. And if you look at my food video, you will see that they have a plethora of food. They have a freezer that's piled up high. They have another freezer in a fridge. in the kitchen. And also too, I didn't show you, minus the cupboards and things like that I've shown, but also within in their backyard, my dad has an outhouse, not an outhouse, but what is it? It's like one of those storage houses. And they have a huge deep freezer back there too. They have a plethora of food. It makes no common sense for them to actually treat me this way if you throw away my food to not allow me to have some of the food that they have in the freezer. So when my mom found this out, she argued with me about taking out her food. So I apologized. I said, okay, well, you know what? I'll ask you, Mom, if I can have something to eat. And so when I asked her, after she threw my food away, she told me to leave her alone. So this goes to show, I thought she said get out of my face, but actually, quote unquote, it was leave me alone. And so the thing about it is that, I was asked to, to ask her for food if I wanted food. And she said, leave me alone. But she threw away my food. So this is very evil. And so this kind of gives validity to a lot of the contradictions I've been told about various things, such as food. Where my mom says I can have ice cream, and then she says she'll think about me having ice cream, and then she says you can have it. Or my mom says to ask for bacon, then she says you don't have to ask me for bacon. It's a contradiction. And so this kind of goes back to a lot of the spiritual doctrines that I've been actually taught, if you will, that have contradictions within them. Whenever you're feeding contradictions within the mind, you're disintegrating and you're destroying the mind. And so that's the whole purpose. The whole purpose is to destroy the mind, to destroy the pineal gland, to make me a 5-finger chick, which you can see, taste, touch, smell, and hear, but take away my divinity. In other words, take away the mind and take away my awareness. And so I want to put light on this, that this is what she did, so I can, just really put light on the agenda. And the agenda is to make it out like I'm crazy, but I'm actually being driven crazy with being told one thing, and then they actually make contradictions in terms of what I'm being told. So I'm going to have you listen to this. Oh, 1 second. Oh, wait a second. Let me go to, I think this is it.
No. The thing is that this is...
Okay, sorry. This is it.
Did you take my chicken wings? Do you know
Why are you arguing?
I'm not arguing. I just told you why did you take the chicken wings?
Okay, because you seem like you're arguing, Mom. Just bring it down. You're making me uncomfortable.
Well, wait a minute. I don't care. You make me uncomfortable every day. Look here.
Well, let me
Why
just
did
say...
you take my chicken wings out the freezer and then even ask me if I had them or something? Could you have some? Do not go on my things like that.
Well, Mom, can I just interject something for a second? Okay, just bring it down a little bit. I took the chicken wings out because I had some drumsticks in there that seasoned, and you cooked them.
I didn't cook more child, let me throw them out.
No, you cooked them. They were in your Pyrex dish.
Oh no, I take that off the freezer. My child took out the freezer for me, but I remember he saying that there was some chicken legs in there, but they weren't any good. He threw them out.
Well, they were my chicken wings.
Well, I don't know. No, they were chicken legs because I saw when he threw them out. Child threw them out.
Well, the thing is, I planned on...
See, he didn't know. He threw them out. That's why you should have asked me about the chicken wing. Then I would know.
Well, the thing is that, I thought that, the thing is that you had, when I looked in the Pyrex
now, the thing is she just actually, and really this hadn't come to light until just a second ago. She told him, you cooked it by mistake. That's okay. So this actually validates that they did cook it. I'm going to play that again because she just lied. She said that my dad threw it away. That's what she told me. She said, oh, he must have thrown it away. But when she was talking to my dad, she just told him, she said, oh, you cooked it by mistake. Listen now, listen carefully. Wait a second, let me go ahead and... Okay, so this goes to show that she lied. She lied. And actually what I said was actually true. Because and this makes a lot of sense, because when I looked in the freezer, I'm not freezing, the refrigerator, and I saw the 4, I didn't see the 4 drumsticks, and then when I looked in the Pyrex dish and I saw the 4 drumsticks there, I said to myself, oh, okay, they cooked it. And so since we're family, I'm not going to go to my family and say, well, you cooked my I'm not going to say, well, you cooked my drumsticks. Why did you do that? To me, that's weird. You know what I mean? It's like kind of petty. So I was like, well, you know what? I mean, they wanted that or whatever. So, there's chicken here. All those, I like dark meat, but whatever, So I just went, and I saw the first little bit of chicken I saw in the freezer, because you see how their stuff is all packed up in there. I didn't really want to fish through it all, but I wanted chicken. So I said, okay, well, I'll go ahead and get some wings. But as you can hear in this video, she said you cooked it by accident. She didn't say you threw it away by accident. So she lied. She lied. Why would you lie? Why would you lie? This is sick and this is sad, and this goes to show that I'm being targeted within my dwelling, that there is a bounty. There's a bounty on my head. And so when I went to my dad in the subsequent video, when I went to my dad to talk to him, and say, because the fact that, you accidentally threw my chicken away, I'm just going to go ahead and cook this food. He told me no, although he bought it back the next day. But he told me no. And, he was like, well, you go ask your mother. Go ask her if you can have the chicken. And she told me in this video, she said, all you need to do is ask. Well, when I went and asked her, she, cooked my food now. It wasn't that it's thrown away now, but she actually cooked it, as you can hear on the video. She validates this. She says I thought she said to get out of her face, but what she actually says is leave me alone. So let's listen to my dad and how he handles the situation.
Have to get this over with. But no. The thing is that this is, Daddy, to be honest with you, let me tell you something. This is childish. I'm going to go ahead and eat them chicken wings. So y'all want to, if y'all, no, the thing is this. The thing is this. How was it that I bought some food? How is it that, so what can I eat in here besides bacon and eggs? I don't want bacon and eggs. I want my chicken legs. But what else can I eat in here? I don't care. I'm gonna eat it, because the thing is this, is that you throw my food away, Daddy. How is it you throw my food away, but I care? Oh, let me go ask her, and she threw my food.
So he says, go ahead and ask her. Now, remind you, she said earlier in the conversation to ask her for food. Now, my food's been thrown away. We've already, well, not even thrown away, but they lied about it. My food has been cooked, and I'll go back to that just to actually say, for you to hear what she told him.
I'm sorry. You're not going to be able to throw my stuff away and tell me not to eat. Mom, can I have the chicken wings since my food was thrown away? Well, I'm going to go ahead and eat the chicken
Now, let me repeat.
Since my food was thrown away?
Let's do it again.
Since my food was thrown away?
She keeps saying, you better leave me alone. Now, she knows, she claimed that my food was thrown away. Although she validates, when she spoke to my dad, that they cooked it. He cooked it. Okay? So this is lying here. But she says, ask me if you want food. So I asked her, this is a witch hunt. This is a witch hunt. This is why I want you to actually share my videos, because the knowledge I'm sharing with you is esoteric knowledge. It is knowledge that actually has put a bounty on my head. It is knowledge that has put a bounty on my head within my dwelling. And so I want you to share this knowledge with everyone. I want you to put it on your Twitter. I want you to put it on your Facebook. I want you to put it and share it within YouTube itself. I want it everywhere, because I have bled dry to get this information out here, and to have my voice be heard, and to actually within my dwelling to have my parents, my earthly parents, in on this. Okay? My earthly parents are programmed to actually demonize me. That's sick. That's sick. Why would you do something like this to someone? This is sick and this is sad. But I'm going to go back to when she validates that it was cooked. She said, well, no, I'm going to go back and say, you know, oh, your dad, he threw it away. And then I'm going to actually point out when she said you cooked it by accident. So this is contradictions.
Did you take my chicken wings? Or did you know for something or no?
Why are you arguing?
I'm not arguing. I just told you why did you take the chicken wings?
Okay, because you seem like you're arguing, Mom. Just bring it down. You're making me uncomfortable.
No, wait a minute. I don't care. You make me uncomfortable every day. Look here.
Well, let me
Why
just
did
say.
you take my chicken wings out the freezer and then even ask me if I had for something? Could you have some? Do not go on my things like that.
Well, Mom, can I just interject something for a second? Okay, just bring it down a little bit. I took the chicken wings out because I had some drumsticks in there that is seasoned, and you cooked them.
I didn't cook for time, let me throw them out.
No, you cooked them. They were in your Pyrex dish.
Oh no, I take that off the freezer. My child took that freezer for me, but I remember he saying that there was some chicken legs in there, but they weren't any good. He threw them out.
Now let me go to when she hangs herself at the end. Listen carefully.
Mom, why are you talking? No, all I'm saying is you cooked it by mistake, but anytime she wants something, to ask for.
So she said you cooked it by mistake. So she just lied to me. This is my earthly mother. She's not my mother. That entity that's speaking in there is not my mother. She is a demon, actually. She's demonic. You know, and really I can say that wholeheartedly without even you know, feeling bad about it. You know, why would you do something like that to your daughter? I would never, you know, my daughter, my earthly daughter, I would never say, you know, oh, I threw away your food, although I know I cooked it. And then when she asks for some food, tell her, you know, to leave me alone. That's evil. That's evil. And so, you know, in my next video I'm going to do, right after this one, it deals with censorship, because since I've been talking about a lot of esoteric topics, you know, I've been threatened with censorship from YouTube. People have been deleting my comments when I send replies with esoteric information. And so I have never on this channel said anything against anyone's race or religion. You know, all I talk about is how race and religion pertains to me. I have not said, you know what, you're bad for being a Christian, or you're bad for being black, or whatever the case is, or, you know, all the information that I've mentioned on this channel as it pertains to those various aspects of an ego, or the contrast in the matrix like religion and media entertainment and things like that. I talk about what they mean to me. What they mean, I always say that, what they mean to you, that's fine. If that's what your thing is, absolutely fine. You know, but you know, there's information out there you can read on the BBC and different places like that where people have been beaten for showing parts of their body. I mean, your body is something that you were born with. You know, you're born into a body. Since you're born into a body, you can't change that, so why do I have to cover it up? You know, to me, you know, that makes no sense in terms of, for me. Now, for you, you know, that makes sense to you, fine, well and good. But it's well within my rights. I'm well within my rights to say that I believe that that's wrong. You know, I believe that, you know, for me, that's wrong. And so, you know, this is all about censorship and freedom of speech. And so in seeing that I'm targeted and lied on within my dwelling, there's a bounty. You know, there's a bounty on my head. And so I really foresee that, you know, my channel is they're going to try to censor it, because I've taken pictures of comments that have been taken down and replies I've actually put if you will, on YouTube that share esoteric information. So, and also too, even like with the Course in Miracles, I've shed, you know, light on A Course in Miracles and how it disintegrated my mind, and so how it causes dissociation. And one of the videos was taken down that Ken Wapnick did, where I think the title of it was "This World Was Over a Long Time Ago." That's dissociation, telling somebody this world was over a long time ago. You're telling the person that this world is not real, right? So, you know, if I was, you know, walking around, I told people, well, this world was over a long time ago, would they put me into some type of insane asylum? Probably. The Christs are always institutionalized in some way, shape, or form. And so I'm going to also shed light on how, you know, lately my mom has been, you know, suggesting that I'm mentally ill and so forth. So she can make a case to actually have my pretty little head, you know, and you know, selling me out to Rome, like I'm always sold out to, so she can get paid as a, you know, as a Judas figure, Judas. So, you know, this is a spit in the face to Judas, if you will, and shedding light on, you know, what is happening to me within my dwelling and the lies. There's one thing about lies. It takes a lot to uphold a lie. When you're telling the truth, it doesn't, you don't exert a lot of energy when you're telling the truth, even if the truth hurts you. Like, say, you know, if I told the truth and, you know, the truth I said about something about me, you know, it's like something I wouldn't want other people to know. But when you have to tell lies, you have to exert a lot of energy. It's like something is being taken away from you. And so when energy is being taken away from you, my mother and people who are programmed within the matrix to demonize me have lied so much that they don't have any energy anymore. And so when you don't have any energy, you have to shapeshift out. You shapeshift out, and you really start to see the glitches. And it's like it's like a soda machine or a robot. You know, it's like, oh, I don't have any more energy. My battery is dying, and it's like, oh, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, I've given all the lies I could possibly give to you. So, you know, this just pretty much puts light on what's going on in my story. And like I said, share. Although if you don't agree with my doctrine, a lot of things I talk about on my channel, for the sake of censorship, I really highly suggest that you share, because, you know, it's important. It's important to have our voices heard here. So thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.